Hey guys, tonight you're drifting into a quieter time, far away from the noise of your day. Imagine yourself in a small medieval town where the heart of life beats gently around its market square. It's early morning, and while your body rests, your mind begins to wander here, where the cobblestones are still cool from the night air and the first pale light of dawn stretches across the rooftops. You're lying there, as though you have always belonged, on a straw-filled mattress tucked in the loft of a timbered house that faces the square. The shutters above you are cracked, just enough to let in a thread of grayish-blue sky. That sliver of light slips across the beams, touches your cheek, and tells you it's time to stir. Though the town has not fully awakened yet, you hear the faintest echoes. A cartwheel creaking far away, a single pair of footsteps across stone, the call of a bird high in the rafters of a church tower. The air carries the crisp coolness of night, giving way to morning. You can almost feel the moisture of dew clinging to the edges of wooden shutters, to the uneven cobblestones, to the canvas awnings that rest folded against closed stalls. Somewhere close by, the slow, sleepy cough of a horse makes you turn your head. It belongs to a vendor who has spent the night near the square, guarding his cart of goods, his animal shifting its weight with a dull thud against the earth. You take a long breath, letting it steady you, letting it remind you that here the pace is slower, measured, as if the whole town prefers to ease itself gently into the day. There are no clattering clocks to jolt you awake, no sudden alarms. Instead, time is marked by light, by the call of roosters, by the distant bell that will soon toll from the church tower to mark the hour. For now, though, the world rests on the edge between silence and sound. You rise in your mind's eye, pulling on a rough woolen cloak to keep the chill away, and step outside. The wooden door creaks softly as you open it, spilling you directly into the empty square. It feels vast in its quietness. The paving stones glisten faintly from the damp night air, and the fountain in the center murmurs in a low trickle, water spilling endlessly, as though it has been whispering to itself for centuries. Your steps echo softly, carried upward into the open space. Around you, the houses lean inward, their upper stories jutting slightly over the square, their beams dark and heavy. Small shuttered windows remain closed, but you sense the lives still curled inside. Children pressed against mothers, grandparents shifting slowly from sleep. You realize you are one of the few who have risen with this early hour, and that makes the square feel like it belongs only to you. A faint smell of smoke lingers, the remnants of last night's fires, mixed with the first sparks of new ones being lit in hearths across the town. You picture women coaxing embers back to life, laying kindling across gray ash, blowing gently until a flame catches. That soft, unseen labor drifts on the breeze, making the morning air smell both sharp and comforting. And then another sound, the faint shuffle of leather shoes. Across the square, a man with a heavy cloak is walking slowly, pulling a wooden cart that squeaks with each turn of its wheels. He nods as he passes, not in hurry, as though he too understands the sacred quiet of this moment. You feel his presence settle into the rhythm of the square, another soul joining you in this half-dream, half-waking place. The first golden rays of sunlight slip around a chimney and stretch across the stones. You notice the sky shifting color, from slate blue to a tender pink, then into that soft wash of yellow that hints at warmth still to come. The church tower glows faintly as it catches the light, its spire cutting upward, its bell hushed for now but waiting. You pause by the fountain, dipping a hand into its cold water, letting the chill sting your fingers before it fades. The ripples spread, and you watch them wobble the reflection of the surrounding houses, a broken mirror of beams and pale walls. It feels as though time bends here, as though the reflection could belong to another century or your own, and perhaps it does not matter which. Nearby, you see folded wooden stalls, simple constructions of planks and canvas. In only a short while, they'll be lifted open, lined with goods, and filled with noise. But at this moment, they are like sleeping creatures, waiting. You run your fingers along the rough wood, the grain carrying traces of hands that have opened and closed them for years. The quiet is fragile, though. A rooster's crow cuts through it, loud and insistent, answered by another somewhere farther away. Windows begin to open, one by one, shutters creaking outward as sleepy faces glance into the light. You hear the murmur of voices calling greetings across alleys, a pot clattering in some unseen kitchen, and the thump of a loaf of dough hitting a wooden board as it's shaped by unseen hands. But even as life stirs, the peace of dawn clings to you. It feels like a gentle veil, something you can wrap around yourself. You stand still and listen to the distant caw of crows circling above the rooftops, to the water trickling in the fountain, to the faint hum of your own breathing. The square is waking, but slowly, giving you time to walk its edges and learn its rhythms. As you drift with the moment, you notice how the stones beneath your feet carry their own story. They are worn smooth where countless carts have passed, yet uneven where frost has pushed them upward. You can almost see the layers of lives that have crossed this place. Merchants calling out prices, children darting between legs, townsfolk gathering in clusters to hear news. Right now, though, it is only you, at the edge of that history, feeling both inside it and apart from it. The bell finally tolls, deep and measured, echoing across the square. The sound is slow, as though it too has just awoken. Each strike seems to pause in the air before fading, as if inviting you to breathe along with it. And so you do, in and out, steady, matching your body to the rhythm of the day as it begins. The square is no longer empty. A baker's boy scurries by, arms wrapped around a bundle of kindling. A woman carrying a bucket of water stops for a moment to rest, nodding politely before she disappears down a side street. Even a stray dog pads into view, its nose close to the ground, tail wagging faintly as it searches for scraps. These simple signs of life ripple outward, and you are caught gently in their tide. But there's no rush here. You remain calm, moving slowly, every sound softened as if wrapped in wool. The square is both alive and not yet alive, balanced on the thin line of dawn, and you find comfort in its in-betweenness. And as you take it all in, the waters murmur, the waking voices, the promise of bread baking, the golden sunlight touching the beams. You feel yourself drifting more deeply into the rhythm of this world, safe, steady, and calm. The faint hush of dawn slowly unravels, and you notice the first stirrings of work taking shape. Across the square, the folded stalls begin to creak open, their wooden panels pushed, upright with groans that sound almost like sighs after a long night of sleep. The shop fronts along the edges of the square wake too, shutters swinging outward, hinges scratching softly as merchants lean out to taste the morning air. You watch as a man in a rough woolen tunic bends his back to lift a heavy beam into place, locking his stall's frame with practiced ease. His hands are worn, calloused from years of the same motion, but there's rhythm in his work. He does not speak yet. Instead, he hums under his breath, a low tune to keep him company, and the sound drifts toward you, mingling with the steady clack of wood against wood. Another stall bursts into motion, a woman in a linen. Cap rolls out a length of fabric dyed in deep blue, spreading it over the counter so it shines faintly in the light. She shakes it once, twice, the cloth rippling like water, then smooths it with her palms. The square begins to fill with these small acts of preparation. Baskets lowered from loft windows, bolts of cloth unrolled, jars unwrapped from burlap sacks. Each movement is ordinary, yet when strung together they feel ceremonial, like a ritual that has marked the beginning of countless days before this one. The sound of crates scraping over stone joins the air. Two young apprentices drag wooden boxes filled with pottery, each step leaving faint scuff marks along the cobblestones. Their master follows behind, lifting the finer pieces himself. Small cups, pitchers, bowls glazed with earthy colors that catch the growing sunlight. He places them gently, almost lovingly, as if each item carries not only value, but a story of hours spent shaping clay, turning wheel, tending fire. You walk closer to another stall where the smell of dried herbs escapes from bundles tied in string. Sage, thyme, lavender, all stacked in neat piles, their colors muted, but their fragrance sharp. The merchant, an older woman with silver streaks in her hair, brushes stray leaves from her apron and arranges the bundles so they lean against one another like companions. She glances up and smiles faintly, acknowledging your presence without words, as though the quiet of morning is still too precious to break with chatter. The square grows louder, but not yet bustling. It is the sound of things finding their places. Shutters knocking against walls, wooden wheels rolling to rest, sacks dropping with a soft thud. You hear the squeal of a pulley as a shopkeeper hauls down a sign, swinging it into position above his door. Painted letters swaying gently, catching the light with each movement. Your gaze drifts upward. The rooftops still hold the pale blush of dawn, but shadows creep back as the sun rises. Tucking itself behind chimneys and gables, smoke begins to curl from those chimneys, thin streams of gray that drift lazily, reminding you that kitchens across the town are alive now. You imagine stews bubbling, pans clattering, bread dough kneaded on boards. Even though you are outside, the market itself feels like one large hearth, warmed by countless small fires within. You pause by a stall where a young man is arranging shoes. He sets them out in pairs, leather polished and smelling faintly of oil. He bends to lace them, then steps back to see them from the view of an approaching customer. His eyes narrow, his mouth twists, and he rearranges them again. The act is repeated several times until he is satisfied. Watching him, you sense not only his desire to sell, but his quiet pride in the work. The stitching along each edge, the solid soles, the shine that reflects his effort. Around you, the square begins to hum, not with words yet, but with anticipation. Merchants straighten their backs, glance at one another, nod, as if to silently greet their neighbors. Apprentices dart from one task to another, fetching water, carrying stools, adjusting awnings to stretch shade across stalls. The canvas overhead shifts, flapping lightly in the breeze, and you notice how the patterns of sunlight dance across the cobblestones, a dappled floor that changes with each gust. And then, almost unnoticed, the first real exchange occurs. A woman carrying a basket of eggs approaches a stall selling cloth. She does not linger long, but asks softly if the merchant would consider a trade. The two lean close, voices hushed, weighing the value of fabric against the fragile shells she offers. They smile at one another, shake their heads, adjust their proposals. The square, for the first time today, hosts negotiation, that timeless dance of give and take. You step aside as another cart rolls into the square. its wheels rattling loudly this time, breaking the fragile calm. The driver calls to his horse, urging it forward, and stops near the fountain. He climbs down, his boots hitting the ground with a solid thump, and begins to unload barrels. The wooden lids are stamped with faint marks, perhaps wine, perhaps oil, and he rolls them carefully, steadying each one with practiced hands. The hollow sound of barrel against stone echoes, carrying across the square, marking a new rhythm. Shadows grow shorter as the sun rises higher. The square no longer feels like it belongs to you alone. It belongs now to the workers, the traders, the apprentices, each piece fitting together into a pattern as old as the stones themselves. And yet you remain within it, moving slowly, letting the details soak into your mind. The angle of a wooden stall, the smell of dust shaken free from cloth, the sharp crack of a crate being opened. All of it folds around you, gentle and steady, guiding you into deeper calm. There is no rush here. Even the busyness carries a softness, as though wrapped in wool. The market does not leap awake but unfurls, layer by layer, until the square is filled not with chaos, but with order, with a harmony born of repetition. Every stall, every shutter, every crate knows its place, and you too find yourself at ease, breathing in its rhythm, settling into the quiet assurance that the day has begun. Outside, the smell drifts wider. It mingles with the scents of herbs, of animals, of damp stone, but it conquers them all. Wherever you stand, it follows, like an invisible hand guiding you back toward the bakery door. You notice how others react to it as well. A craftsman pausing, mid-task to sniff the air. A merchant leaning slightly toward the scent before shaking his head. And returning to his stall, an apprentice wiping his brow as his eyes flicker toward the oven's glow. The bread is not merely food. It is a promise of comfort, of fullness, of the day ahead made easier. You draw closer still, standing just inside the bakery's threshold. The heat presses against your skin, heavy but not unwelcome. You see shelves stacked with loaves, some shaped long and thin, others round and squat. A few are sprinkled with seeds, tiny flecks that catch the firelight like sparks frozen in crust. Each has its own texture, its own weight. You imagine their taste. The crack of crust under your teeth, the soft steam rising from within, the way butter would melt instantly against the warmth. The bakers do not notice you, or perhaps they do, but accept your presence as part of the morning. One man wipes sweat from his forehead with the back of his arm, leaving a streak of flour behind. A woman beside him slaps a lump of dough onto the board, presses her knuckles deep into it, folds and presses again, her rhythm hypnotic. The air is thick with flour dust, turning the shafts of sunlight into glowing streams that cut through the dim space. Outside, the first buyers walk away, holding loaves wrapped in cloth, their steps quicker now, as though the smell urges them home to eat. You picture them breaking bread with family, dipping it into broth, savoring it with the first meal of the day. And you, too, feel as though you have eaten already, the scent itself feeding something deep within you. The bell of the church tower tolls again, and with its echo, more people arrive. The line at the bakery stretches, coins clinking, voices murmuring, hands gesturing toward the freshest loaves. The air outside grows thick with conversation now, but still the smell of bread grounds it all, no matter what is said. Prices, gossip, greetings. The bread is the silent anchor, holding everyone in place. You step back into the square, the warmth of the bakery lingering on your skin. The sun has climbed higher, brightening the colors of the stalls now fully open. Yet even as cloth gleams and pottery shines, your senses return again and again to the bread. It weaves through the entire market, tying its many threads into one simple, sustaining promise that each day begins with nourishment, with the sharing of something humble and timeless. You pause once more, eyes closed, letting the smell wash over you. It is a comfort not only to the body, but to the spirit, reminding you that in this place, surrounded by strangers, you are still part of the same ritual. Everyone here is bound by the same hunger, the same delight, the same quiet gratitude for bread that has come hot from the fire. And as you breathe it in, you feel your body grow heavy, calm, as though the air itself is enough to settle you into rest.